I just also want to add, I think Teresa Vaughn, like if we're comparing two actors, I think he does a better performance than Donald Pleasance does.
So,
I think
100%.
Donald Pleasance is just a better, and he's just a better villain in general by being a more active, involved villain who actually fights Bond. I think this is the one time we actually see Bond and Blofeld actually go toe-to-toe
And I like
together.
when he triggers the avalanche. I think that was cool, and that's legit.
Yeah.
That is a good villain
And McCurdy,
move.
to your point, I like that it's not toe-to-toe so far as like a punch for punch, because, Blofeld's just like a fat dude who's used to a sedentary lifestyle, sitting around telling other people what to do. I don't think he could best Bond. As much as Gunther should have kicked Teresa's ass, I don't think Blofeld had a chance against Bond. Instead, they kind of put Bond at a disadvantage with this whole... I mean, it's kind of when you really look at it from like an eagle's eye view, the bobsled thing might be goofy, but I still think it works. It's suitable so long as like Blofeld's trying to get away, and then it puts Bond at a disadvantage where he has to chase him, where Blofeld could have gotten away.
If we're judging, like I'm saying, if we're judging this movie in comparison to the other films,
which is what we're doing, that's literally the point of the podcast.
If we're judging it compared to the other films, and you're talking about great fight scenes and stuff, that's a great fight in between him and Blofeld on the bobsled. But I don't think him and Largo have a great fight. Him and Blofeld don't even have a great fight in the last movie.
They didn't have a fight because it would have been horribly one-sided, which is my point.
Goodbye, Mr. Bond.
This movie kind of pretends like You Only Live Twice never happened.
To some degree.
And that's the point Patterson made, is that they finally meet face to face. I would much rather have You Only Live Twice never happened, or at least had hidden Blofeld. And then that would lead to this, where Peter Hunt says, okay, how about this? Instead of just some cheap reveal of Blofeld, let's actually have him out in the open the whole time, but we don't know it's him. I mean, we have the whole cat and the bald head and the weird jumpsuit, but let's slowly let it release until Blofeld finally fucking takes that mask off, and he was hiding in plain sight the whole time.
Like if I was going to rewrite, like Charlie, I like your idea for rewriting this film to make the relationship between Bond and Tracy better. If I was going to do the rewrite, it would be changing Blofeld and making him consistent with what he was in the previous films. A shadowy puppet master who is very intelligent and has a coherent, sensical plan, who also knows how to leverage the resources of Spectre to cause chaos and mayhem throughout the world. And this Blofeld does not do that. He does not do any of those things well. And that's why I don't like him as a villain. I don't think he does those things well.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I do think there is a little bit, I mean, you could say this is fucking headcanon again, but I think there's a little bit of the idea that Spectre is... You and your fucking headcanons.
You and your fucking head.
Yeah, head. Hold on, I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done. I'm not done.
Please justify...
I do think that this movie, in a weird way, especially after You Only Live Twice, it's like Spectre kind of fades from existence. I don't want to speculate if that's a Thunderball rights issue or not, but there's no other Spectre agents in this movie. Yeah, you could say, oh, Irma Blunt is another Spectre agent. We never hear her called her as... number 1 or number 11.
Which, by the way, she's technically the one who pulled the trigger on Tracy's death.
Yeah.
And yet we never see her again. Bond never takes care of Bunt. But anyway, go on.
But yeah, there's never... So there's almost like this idea that Spectre, in a weird way, is dismantled, but Blofeld is still out there.
I feel that. That's why he wants to retire almost. It's like his last-ditch effort. And this is where I will agree with you, McCurdy. Let's say that Spectre had its big day, right, where we almost ended the world, and then it ended with only Blofeld getting away from the volcano layer, and then he, like Sauron, scampers away to regroup. He ends up using the last of his funds to establish this allergy clinic, and then he weaponizes some chicks on his side by hypnotizing them. I can believe all of that. I can totally get behind all of that. And then his motivation is, I've been bested, and I just want to be left alone. But why couldn't he just stay in hiding? Instead, he called attention to himself that literally brought Bond to him. He could have disappeared forever. He could have retired to some fucking island somewhere. Instead, he had to manufacture this whole thing.
Is this 100% a sequel to You Only Live Twice?
No.
I guess that's a question I have.
It's supposed to be.
Are we supposed to take each movie as an
Doesn't come off
individual
that
little
way.
story.
They make it quite clear that this is a sequel. Not only do they show all the
Yeah.
movies in the prologue, but then
Yeah.
we have that cute little scene where Bond plays with his old toys. For some reason, he has Honey Rider's belt. I mean, Honey Rider's out there without a knife. We have the
Okay.
watch from Russia with Love. We have the Thunderball breather. And then we have the janitor whistling
Yeah.
the Goldfinger tune. We have all these references to all the movies beforehand, except for You Only Live Twice. It's like there's no reference to that movie.
Well, no, that's not true because they do show
No,
it in the trailer.
They showed in the prologue, but they don't make a reference. They don't. Bond never puts on a Japanese wig and pretends that he's Yakuza or whatever the.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
I actually think it's disappointing that they make Spectre so toothless. I'm disappointed to hear that because, like, to me, that was what was intimidating about both Spectre and Blofeld. Like, was it not the whole point of Spectre that they're like, they could be anywhere at any time, they could strike from the shadows and retreat, and you wouldn't be able to expect it? Which again is like why I'm like, why didn't he use the Spectre agents to do this plan? Because I thought that was the whole point of Spectre, was that a Spectre is a ghost. It is something that could easily just slip into your room and with you and then slip right back out.
Spectre
and
is
you're
representative of eternal chaos. Eternal chaos.
Right.
That there is always this evil element hidden out there, and just like Hydra, cut one head off and two spring up to replace it. That's what Spectre is. Spectre is eternal.
I mean, are we supposed to believe that after the last movie, everybody died in the volcano layer? They didn't have a contingency plan? They didn't have somebody manning a station elsewhere?
An organization known as Spectre operates worldwide.
One of the problems with the last film, which we did notice, is like now that the mask is off, essentially, of Blofeld, he's not as interesting, and they didn't know what to do with him to make him more interesting, and at least this film does a fair job in trying to make him more, like you've said, Charlie. He's more of a character.
Be a Spectre thing.
I
at
agree
all.
with that.
Like, then they never use the word Spectre in this movie and just make it about Blofeld and his quest for vengeance and maybe
Sure.
I agree with Patterson that they reduce Blofeld from leader of Spectre to number one, and he's just like acting
He's
as
just a dude now.
an agent of Spectre, not the leader of Spectre.
It's just never put into context for us. All they had to do was have M say, we've already killed or captured every member of Spectre. All that's left now to clean up is Blofeld. That's it.
The scene we didn't see was when Spectre all had a vote to get rid of their leader, and Blofeld's on the outs. He's no longer part of Spectre, and now he's on his own, right? And without Spectre to protect him, now he has to figure out a way to get amnesty. That actually would have been really fucking interesting in the wake of You Only Live Twice.
And that would have made sense for why he would come up with this elaborate brainwash these women
completely
plan.
Because Blofeld suddenly doesn't have Spectre anymore.
Right.
Jesus Christ, we're going to rewrite this fucking movie and make it significantly better. We're going to make the Bond Tracy thing actually make sense, where Bond is motivated to fall in love with her rather than just have a romantic montage. And we're going to fucking fix Blofeld from just having this elaborate scheme that doesn't make sense if he still has all the resources of Spectre behind him, but instead we separate him from Spectre, and then boom, we motivate everything he does.